Oh, I keep forgetting that I have to move over this way. Hi, everybody! Yay! It is 6 o'clock. Although, thanks to the lag, it'll be a little bit after once you actually start seeing this. So it's so good to see that people are here, and it's such a relief that I was actually able to come up with 6 things. I just had to do a little bit of thinking. One of the things that I was going to do was an event down at the town where I teach, and that got canceled because it rained yesterday. I was like, oh. And then I had to think, I'm like, okay, there's some other stuff, right? And so I did some internet searching today to find some of the other stuff, and some of it I was familiar with, and I was like, oh yeah, I can use that. So so welcome. Thank you so much for joining me today. And I'm gonna move this over here so I can see the chat a little bit better. Well, I do care, CMAC. I absolutely do care. But yes, when I start, I don't remember. I think it started with my Twitter handle. Once I decided, because I had a blog that I had been running, so it's been a little while now. I had a blog that I had been running pseudonymously, and eventually I kind of got to the point where I'm like, I'm not going to feel, I don't want to say comfortable, but I'm definitely I know that I'm going to be self-censoring more, and I'm going to be more cautious about what I share if I share it with my real name. But I got to a point professionally where I wanted to do that. And so I thought about sort of how I wanted to define myself beyond just my name, because, my name isn't super common, but there are some other Dana Coles out there. I think the most well-known is a photographer in Norway, maybe? Anyway, yes, but I absolutely not, I care to dare. Like, caring by itself is not, that's nice, but if you don't do anything about it, if you just like care, like your feelings, then it doesn't accomplish much, and that's honestly something that I've struggled with. One of the things that I've been told by my administration is they won't care what you know. Students won't care what you know until they know that you care. Which, first of all, that was hard for me to accept, because I'm like, well, that's just like a little, happy little platitude there. It just does not, like, and because it was presented to me as, you care more, you are more willing to accept what someone says when you know that they care about you. I'm like, no, I care if what they say is accurate. I mean, obviously I care if they care about me, but people that care about me can be wrong. And it's more important to make sure that you have accurate information. I mean, in terms of like whether you accept the information or not. Obviously, in general, it's more important to have people who care about you, because we ain't in this alone. We don't get through it alone. That's not the way, human nature and humanity works. We are social creatures. I hope everyone else has, it's Saturday evening, so I hope everyone else has had a lovely 2 weeks. And I hope, maybe it's not your weekend, it's my weekend, but I hope you get a chance sometime through the 2 weeks to rest and take a break. I did not volunteer at the library today. Kind of a bummer. But I had time with family, and after we had lunch, we sat back and chit-chatted for a while. I'm like, okay, it's nap time. And so I came home and I took a nap. So it is what it is. Can't do everything. So anyway, getting back to story time. Then when I got the process of getting my gifted endorsement, some of the research was based on student surveys, and students ranked, said what matters to them about their teachers. And one of the important things that they noted was that students did say, it's important to me that my teacher cares about me. And they ranked that higher than it is important to me that my teacher understands the material effectively. I'm just like, what? Why? I don't get that. And that's, again, that's based on a survey. It's based on self-reporting. It doesn't necessarily mean that there is a correlation between students perceiving that the teacher cares about them and students achieving mastery of the course material. Not quite the same thing. That was something I noticed. But at the same time, the report focused on the fact that they had anticipated that gifted students would be more likely to, or would be the ones who would rank teacher expertise ahead of teacher perceived caring. And both groups, gifted and non-gifted, ranked teacher caring ahead of teacher expertise, although gifted students were more likely to rank teacher expertise higher. So, but that was just really interesting to me. And I was just like, okay, so that's not how I see, that's not how I would have answered it. But, you know, once I had that research in front of me and that's how students reported it themselves, I was like, okay then. So, you know, I've, you know, over the last several years, I've really been focusing on, all right, but I do care about my students. I do care. So how do I make sure that they know that? What can I do that not just shows them that I care, but leads them to believe that I do? If that makes sense. That difference matters, not just to show them that I care, but to lead them to the belief that I care. It does matter whether or not you do care, because if you're willing to do these things, then that's an evidence that you do care. It's not just enough to care. You have to get students to the place where they believe it too. So. I'm not sure what crisscross applesauce has to do with the CMAC, but I mean, if you enjoy sitting properly across the game. By the way, tell me in the chat, how was the party? And are you going to share pictures of food? Because, food. Speaking of which, food is one of the things on the Saturday 6. So that makes a great lead-in. But anyway, so that was how I came up with Dana Coldare's. And fortunately, it was available on, so far, I'm sure there will be more. So far, it's been available on all social media. By the way, if you get messaged by somebody with an extra S at the end, Dana Coldare's with 2 S's at the end, that's not me. So that was on Instagram a while back. All right. Well, I guess I'm ready to get started with the 6. So let's see if I can make this work. Fingers crossed. Going over here. And if I move this up, can I do this with this in the foreground? It's moving. Look, you guys, it's moving. Okay, oops, it's moving. And if I move it this way, can I get the number? Go. There we go. Now we can see the number. Oh, it still moves a little bit weird. But if I move it this way. Okay, so first, my library, you guys. Oh, I love libraries so much, and we'll get to see more from library stuff in a little bit, but not today, fortunately. But last Saturday, the second Saturday of every month, there's yoga now at the library. And last Saturday, it snowed. No food pictures. Oh, bummer. Actually, maybe that's good because I don't get to have the food. So, anyway, back to my story. Yoga at the library. I meant to get pictures of that. I guess we're even, see that, because I don't have pictures from yoga. Like, originally, when I noted this, it said, take pictures in parentheses after it. Did I take pictures? No, I did not. Because it's a challenge to get there, because one of my Saturday things that I do is I have teacher not live streams, but like tweet chats that I do from like 8 until 11. Well, yoga's at 10. I think yoga's actually at 10:15. So like I do my tweet chats until like 10 o'clock, and then I skip the last one on the day when there's yoga, and then I go to yoga instead. But that's just once a month, so it's okay. Steve, pay attention. So last Saturday it snowed. It snowed, and it was cold, and I was like, oh, I don't know if the teacher's going to be there. I don't know, I hadn't been out before going to yoga. I'm like, I don't know if the roads will be clear because it's still really cold and it snowed. And what if the roads are icy? I hope everybody's okay. So I went there, And I was like, because I was just like, plus it's the library, and also I had a fine because I had not been paying attention, and I had 3 books that had been like a week overdue, so I had like almost $5 in fines. I was like, okay, so I'll just pay off the fine and not get any more books because I already have enough. I have enough books. Mm. But the teacher was there. Nobody else came, so we just did, me and the yoga teacher. We did yoga together, so it's really nice. And like I said, so this is the second Saturday of every month, and that's going to continue indefinitely. And I'm really stoked about that, and it's pretty awesome. I'm really happy that we do that. I hope more people come. I'm kind of bummed that our library is as small as it is because there's not a lot of room if a lot of people come. So we'll see. I don't know. See, Mike, I don't know what you're talking about, dude. You give like these little cryptic things that I don't know. I'm guessing, especially since it's like to something I said 30 seconds ago. There's a G in Georgia. I don't know. I'm not sure what you're talking about. I'm sorry. All right. So, scrolling. There we are. The second one, the Crown Act passed. And I feel a couple of kinds of ways about this. First of all, like, it shouldn't have to be a thing. It just shouldn't. But, like, the importance of the actual legislation saying that it's not legal to discriminate based on this. Like, you can say, oh, well, it's because, the person, it's not the hair, it's the personality. There's all kinds of ways to get around it. But it's more about acknowledging that it's a problem, that it actually is a problem. And like public acknowledgement that it's not okay to do this. Kind of like, like in my tweet chat this morning about book banning and about why parents get upset about the fact that certain books are either in public school libraries or a part of the curriculum. And I think it's important to know, because people say, oh, well, those kids can, there's the internet, kids can find all kinds of stuff. That's not the only issue, whether kids have access to it. It's not just about access. Yeah, we don't have, okay, going back to the yoga. So yeah, with snow in Georgia, we don't have snow plows, or at least if we do, very few of them, and salt trucks and things like that. I think it was close enough to freezing that salt trucks would have made it okay. But as it was, I went out, the roads were clear, it was all good. So, anyway, back to the Crown Act and to banning books. The issue isn't just access to the books. That is part of it, yes, but it's not the only thing. It's that it's a public school, which is a public institution. And when we have books available in a public school or a public library of any sort, that is, they're public institutions. And so essentially we're saying the public thinks that these are acceptable. And when we make them part of the curriculum and we assign them to students, we're saying not only do we think these books and their ideas are acceptable, we want to promote them. We think you should explore these ideas. We think that all, students must not necessarily believe these things, but at least grapple with them. And if they promote values that we don't agree with, then as the public, we should say, no, we don't want these books in our schools. If Mein Kampf was on a high school curriculum, I would hope, or, a number of problematic or racist or sexist works were in high school curriculums, and it wasn't for the express purpose of looking at the issues raised from a modern standpoint and pointing out how the racism, sexism, or, whatever bigotry was in the books, looking at how it's developed and how it connects with the culture and the political what's the word I'm looking for? The political tenor of the times and how it affected people, I would take issue with that. So it's about the acceptability and what we say is okay. So this is not the Crown Act in sort of extension of that, along those same lines. The Crown Act isn't just about saying it's not okay to do this. It's about saying we are making it clear to everyone, this is what we believe and this is what we value. And I really hope, do I have it here? Where do I have it? Oh, where'd the book go? In stamped from the beginning. The connection between racist policy and racist thought. Kendi's premise is that we tend to think that racist policy and legislation stems from racist ideology, when if you look at the history, it's the other way around. People who had power created racist laws to not consolidate, but to ensure that their hold on that power continued. And the legislation and the behaviors that it promoted then that created attitudes that resulted in attitudes that then perpetuated the racism. And so maybe this is a way that we can change that by having legislation that is specifically anti-racist. Maybe that can change some of those underlying attitudes. Like, we know that it's not okay to be racist. Like, people say that. People who are racists say that, which is kind of cool. I mean, it's at least, it's not nothing. And so maybe going forward, this will encourage more people to think about that and say, yeah, but it's not okay to just not be racist, to not actively be racist. Hi, Sarah. Maybe we can sort of get the idea through and encourage that if we are not racist, we need to be actively anti-racist. Kind of like what I was saying earlier with my name, if we care, we need to do something about it. Same idea. Yeah, and moderated with a quick finger, because, I would have moderated it, Sarah, I promise, but I'm not as quick on the draw as like everybody else, apparently. Everybody else is fashion. That's okay, though. All right, so that's that one. Scrolling. Okay. Oh, yeah. The not hamentation. All right, so on Monday, I came home from school, and there were fruit tarts. And they were really good, you guys. So my daughter, and now I will show off this. So that was given to my husband. We got 3 of them. The school he works at put together a basket of goodies as part of a not baby shower. So my department did one for me, and his school did one for him. And it was just, it's so nice to feel supported. It really is. I should have included that on there, because that was in the last 2 weeks. So my department, we've been, needing to do some extra meetings because we're working toward benchmark testing. Not cool with that, but it's being mandated by at least the system, possibly the state. Not really clear on this. I want to know a little bit more about that process. Anyway, so we're having to get together and do some curriculum development, which is great because I love talking about curriculum. That's cool. And so anyway, we set up a meeting for this, and we had to do it over lunch because we don't have the same planning times, and some people can't do before school and some people can't do after school, which is kind of nice because getting there early. Ooh. And then if we have it after school, there's no hard stop. So that's almost worse because y'all English teachers can't talk. So anyway, I was stressed out because I was like, yeah, Thursday's fine. And then 2 days later, I was like, Oh, I have, oops, my hair, I just like getting in my face. I have, a doctor's appointment on Thursday. I can't be there. And I told them I could. And I felt really stupid. I'm like, I'm sorry, you guys. Reply to this email. And they're like, that's okay. We'll do it. Yeah, we'll do it on Wednesday instead. So whatever. Anyway, we changed the date for me. And I'm so apologetic. And, but it ended up being really good that I didn't just go, oh, I'll just figure it out later. That I actually let them know, because I show up and we're not talking about curriculum. Like I show up, I bring my laptop and I sit down and everybody's just looking at me. And I'm just, what? And they said, look at the board. And I looked up at the whiteboard from, we met in another teacher's room and she's got like the quote of the day on it. And I'm just like, what does that have to do with our curriculum? They're like, no, the digital board. And I look over the digital board, which is hanging on top of the whiteboard a little bit further that direction. And it says, congratulations. And then we had like broccoli cheese soup and little ham and cheese sliders. They know I like, I guess we all like cheese. Honestly, we're white folks. And chocolate cake. And they gave me, a bag of goodies, and we had matching keychains that says, I think it says DNA, family is more than DNA, and a memory book and some stuff like that. And then, so they had 3 different colored, my husband's gave 3 different colored tumblers, and we got passes to the zoo. And it's just, but yeah, I was ready to talk about curriculum. I had no idea. They got me good. And it was so sweet. And I had so much food and it was great. Over the last few weeks, I put on like 10 pounds, like over the last 2 months, I think. Oh, but I like food, you guys, including, for example, fruit tarts. So I came home on Monday, which was Pi Day, March 14th, 3.14165.2, I think, something like that. And so there were fruit tarts, and I was like, oh, is this for Pi Day? And she said, no, kind of, maybe it can be, but not intentionally. I just felt like baking. And they were like round, but the pastry shell had been folded over. Like she'd cut them out. The pastries were round. And then before baking them, she folded them up on the sides 3 places. So then you have a place for the filling, and it doesn't just go out. And I was like, they're 3-sided pastry. They look like they're supposed to be something. And she said, yeah, they're from a cartoon called The Dragon Prince, which she's been watching. I've watched, some of it, but I'm not really following it along, mostly because I just don't have the brain for it. It looks good though. Anyway, so she said she'd found a recipe online that was supposed to mimic the fruit tarts that they had in the show. It's like, okay. And they were really good, you guys. They were so good. We had 2 kinds of jam in the fridge. We had apricot jam and we had ginger jam. And she used some of that. And we also had some berry, a collection of frozen berries in the freezer. And they've been there for a while. So she's like, I guess I can just use this. And then she reduced them and she made some jam out of them. And those were really good too. So anyway, then a couple days later on my Twitter feed, I see people are starting to post pictures of their hamentation. I was like, that's what they looked like. That is what they looked like. And so I went back to her. I'm like, were those supposed to be hamentation? I think this was like just today. And she's like, supposed to be what? I'm like, hamentation. Now I don't know if I'm saying that right, but that's what it looks like. Hamentation, right? Anyway, she's like, no. And I explained to her what they were. They're from Purim. And I'm not really sure why Haman's hat is the shape of the cookies. Like, I haven't really figured that out yet. I mean, I guess it's, less grim than saying, oh, it's the shape of a gallows or something like that. But they're like little triangle cookies. And but what she said was that when they developed the show, they decided that in this world, the fruit tarts were going to be something that looked like hamentation. I was like, oh, so there is a connection. This isn't me being just completely randomly coincidental. But they were really good, and she baked them, and I ate more of them than was probably, than my body probably needed. But let me tell you, they were small pies. and my soul needed them. And they were really good. Ah. No, Sarah, I think ticks are generally bad. Homebody, you know what the solution to that is. You gotta bake them yourself. Oh, Sarah, hand pies, like hand folded pastry pies, like, and pie that can fit in your hand. Like, oh, they're just like just the right size to eat and shove in your mouth. Mm. Ah. Oh, thanks. Homentation. Okay, cool. I think I've only ever seen it in print. Which is interesting because my maiden name, Habecker, is sometimes said Habecker, and I say it both ways. But it's never Habecker, although there are some families where that's the case. So always interesting how the A sounds. Dun 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 dun. All right, moving on. Man, I can talk. I'd say I'm sorry, but kind of not. Y'all can just deal with it. If you don't like it, you can go. It's okay. You do you, people. No, it's Haman. So it's ah all the way through Hamantaschen. Like it's the ah like in father ah the whole way through. Anyway, Hamantaschen. No, oh wait, there's two A's, like ha. Like, okay. Typing it out here, y'all. Like, CMAC, you type that out. I can't tell it. CMAC, I can't read your phonetic spelling. I can't, or I can read it, but I can't phoneticize that. Okay, so it's father the whole way through. Hamantaschen. Okay, hopefully that's right. This lag, y'all, throws me off. And I mean, I guess there's no getting around it. It's gotta get back from space. Unfortunately. Oh gosh. Why do people have to be jerks, let's say? Oh, lordy, 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 lordy. See, homebody, you type it out like that and I see, hey. Like, if I was typing that, I would be, okay, Sarah. So, in Christian and Jewish tradition, although the festival of Purim is a Jewish festival, there is a queen named Esther who was chosen from the Jewish people to be queen to Mordecai's her uncle. I don't remember the king's name. Anyway, so she was chosen to be queen. She didn't want to do it, but her uncle's like, look, somebody got to stand up for us, and God is giving you an opportunity. And she's like, okay, fine. And see, it's just different people are different, and that's interesting and cool, and sometimes makes communication difficult, but so we need to keep in mind. So anyway, among the things that happened, there was the king's advisor, Haman. Yes, I'm guessing. Jerk in the chat that Sarah's getting before I see it. Not that I know of. I'm not seeing any of it. If she's getting a jerk in the chat, then she's kicking somebody else out of the chat. Then like, she's doing a really good job because I'm not seeing it. So Haman wasn't happy with the amount of influence that Queen Esther had, and with the number of, thought the Jewish people were taken over, blah, 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 bigotry. And but food, CMAC. And so he tried to arrange it so that the Jewish people would all be killed, like hanged. And Esther, being gorgeous and savvy, went up to the king and was like, "Do you love me?" And he's like, "Yeah." And he's like, "I'll give you whatever you want." She's like, "Just please don't kill me." And he's like, "What? Nobody's gonna kill you. What are you talking about?" And she's like, "There's someone who wants me to die. And everybody who cares about me wants all my family to die." And he's like, "Well, that's just not okay. And who would do such a thing? You're just, no." And she's like, "It's your advisor." And he's like, "Oh, really?" And he's built a gallows. He's going to kill all of us. And the king's like, "What? Well, since we got the gallows, let's just hang him." And they did. So hopefully that summarizes that pretty quick. And so yeah, the Hamantaschen are in the shape of his hat. I don't know why. It's the hat, but maybe I don't know. I mean, it's not like he was beheaded and it's like the shape of his hat because, the head. I don't know. Anyway, so I hope I mostly got that okay. But it's about courage because part of it is that, in her position, she was protected to some degree. But Mordecai, her uncle, is like, don't think for a minute that it's not going to touch you. They'll start with somebody else, and then you'll be maybe not next in line, but you'll be in line somewhere. Okay, so cycling without age. This is one of the ones that I'm like, oh, okay, I need to have some stuff besides just like stuff that's happened to me and the Crown Act. Oh, Steve is lovely. Oh, that's nice of you to say, Sarah. Whatever. Who wore a triangular hat. That is just hilarious. That's so interesting. I wonder if that's why, witches' hats are, associated and are supposed to be like triangular because like the evil hat. I don't know. Just, just something to think about. So anyway, Cycling Without Age is a program that was developed in Denmark by this dude who decided that he liked bicycling and he felt bad for, there were people, elderly people in the nursing home who were just like, yeah, I used to love biking, but, falling off the bike sucks no matter what. Really sucks when you're older. And so he rented not a trike. Shoot, what they call that? I have to look at my notes here. Dude. Nope, not that one. What's they're called? Yeah, trishaw. Okay. So it's kind of like it plays on rickshaw, but so it's got you got the person pedaling in the back, and then up by the handlebars, in front of the handlebars, it's extended, and you got a bench for passengers. So he rented one of those and started visiting the nursing home and his local nursing home and taking people out to go for a ride. And he liked doing it and believed in it enough that he started getting other people to help him out, and felt not a recumbent bicycle. So like the pilot, they call it, is in the back, just regular bike, but there's actually near the handlebars in front of the handlebars, there's a bench for additional passengers. And I've seen some of these that have like a little baby stroller almost in front. Good evening, Matthew. I'm so glad you could join us. And so anyway, funny hats in dishonor, mockery, I think of Haman. Sorry. Yes, and the festival is called Purim. So anyway, with Cycling Without Age, so he started getting people to help him, and then he talked to the bicycle manufacturer was no longer making these bikes, these trishaws, but he pointed out that there was, he'd gotten enough people interested, there was a market for it, and they started making them again. And then he's also been in, so now they're in, I think, 52 different countries. And I'm going to put a link to where you can find, they've got a map where you can find the different countries where it's available and cities where either they have some of the trishaws and they have a program, or they are trying to get one set up so that you could help out with this. It's a great way to be involved in your community and to connect connect people with people, and also just be out and about, especially now as we're getting into, at least in the Northern Hemisphere, weather that is hopefully going to be a little bit nicer. So, there are Hamen Taschen. Yeah, we don't actually have any because this is the internet. So yeah, I was really interested. They have 3 different kinds of trishaws that they are authorized, and called the Classic, the Christiania, which is one that they've developed. And then as members started sort of making modifications, they added padding in the passenger seat, so it's a little bit more comfortable. And they cut out a panel in the back canopy so that it's not just the passengers, because there's room for 2. There's not a bicycle built for 2 passengers anyway. So it's not just the passengers talking to each other, but that the pilot can talk to the passengers as well. Again, building that community. And the bike manufacturer liked these modifications and started changing those features in later models. So that was kind of cool. They also have another Danish bike manufacturer that has a battery-powered support and has handlebars where you can turn the wheels independently to make the turns a little bit smoother. And then there's another one that comes from the Netherlands, and it's like super nice. It's got an extra wide bench with padding, and it's got a suspension so that it's not as bumpy for the people who are in front. The footrest goes all the way down to the ground, so they don't have to step up into the bike. And it has an electric assist motor. So the bicycle manufacturer that does this one, it's called the Chat, actually does assisted bicycles where they're power assisted. And so this one is also power assisted as well. And it even has a reverse gear. So like you can shift into reverse and then pedal backwards and the bicycle will back up, which is pretty cool. Probably also pretty expensive, but yes, cool. So yeah, I'll have a link to Cycling Without Age. I'll probably just put a link to, where you can find around the world and have the little map pins. So if, it's something that you're interested in, you can help out. Yay. Wait, Sarah? I don't think I'm allowed. I think I am allowed to do that legally, but I think that would be a patron. I don't think that's not even going to be a patron video. That is the sort of video that could get me in trouble. And my job is important and meaningful, and I want to keep it. So that's not going to happen. Yeah, very much so. Porch bench on wheels, but with somebody else behind you. So it's like one person in the back, 2 people in the front, and the person in the back is the one who's like actually driving the bike. 2 people in front, they don't, they're not controlling the handlebars or pedaling or anything like that. And it is a little on the complicated side, but you're doing something nice for other people. Uh-oh. Sarah's like, mouthing off to science. Now I'm a little bit worried about it. All right, so I'm peeking at the chat. Da, 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 da. Yeah, Matthew, I'm with you. Where did that come from, Sarah? And what's wrong with science? I like science. And also, yay, vaccinations. All right, moving right along. Oh, it doesn't like the way I spelled interlibrary. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm already on 5. Good for me. Interlibrary loan. Okay. Y'all. I have so many books. Those books. And I've got those books. And I've got those books over here that you can't see. And I've got the books in those room. And I've got... There is... So we now have 2 rooms in our house, actually, that do not have bookshelves. It's the bathrooms. So, I'm sorry. Sarah, are you grumpy at science, or are you grumpy at the context surrounding the science? I'm very curious. And yes, you need some rest. Maybe have a drink. So this one is watermelon lime Sprite, I think. Maybe it's strawberry. No, it's watermelon lime Sprite. So anyway, one of the ways that I am resisting the urge to buy books is by supporting the library. And I get most of my books that way, although sometimes it doesn't work out. Because, like, the book that I just took back to the library today was Teaching Community. I think it's Teaching Community by Bell Hooks. Pretty sure that's the one. Anyway, it's still on my currently reading list on Goodreads because I had that sucker for almost 6 weeks. It's due like on, what's today? It's due today. So I've had it for 6 weeks and I gave it back because I was out of renewals. And so, yeah, after today, it was like, start paying. So I'm going to pay for it because one of the reasons it took me so long to get through was like, I would want to write in the margins and like respond to it and think and make connections. And it's such a good book. I mean, you just watch the video. And that was when I was only like 20 pages in. I got all the way up to like page 100 out of a 200-page book. Y'all, a 200-page book. 6 weeks. That tells you something. Anyway, and it's not a hard read. She does talk about that it's not like a scholarly text per se. It's a collection of essays. Although there are some places where I'm just like, honey, maybe this isn't intended to be a scholarly text, but I'm a good reader. And here I have to slow down and be like, okay, I know what this word means. I know what this word means. I know what this word means. How do I put it together? Okay, I got this. And then also just like all of the things about, her experiences as a student and as a doctoral student and as a, a professor and then, working in teaching in different contexts. And I'm just like, oh, so good. Anyway, so I'm going to have to buy that one. But took that one back. I took one back and I got 2 more. Not really going for the less books, but that's okay because they're from the library. So the books that I got through Interlibrary Loan are 1,000 Beginnings and Endings. And this is a collection of modern reinterpretations of Asian myths and legends from a variety of South Asian and East Asian authors. And just the intro grabbed me because it clicked with me. And the stories have been really good so far. I'm already, in fact, I'm more pages than this one. I'm at 92 on this one. So I'm almost as far through this one in terms of the number of pages as I was through Bell Hooks. And this was like, I got it today. And I haven't been reading it all day because I took a nap. So it reads really fast. Anyway, the introduction from the editors. Dear readers, for one of us, it was the first book a librarian gave to her when she finally summoned up the courage to ask for a book recommendation. The Pink Fairy Book by Andrew Lang. I'm just like, oh, so I immediately have thoughts about this because I don't know. I may have actually, I think, if not, this is one of the books that is on my to include list. The Green Fairy Book. It's in horrible condition. The front cover is missing. The back cover is no longer attached. This was my father's when he was little. And this edition is this Dover edition, first published in 1965, is an unabridged and unaltered republication of the work, first published circa 1892. I love the Andrew Lang fairy books. They're a part of who I am. I have loved them for longer than I can remember. I love the illustrations. I love them. And I love, the message from Lang himself at the beginning. I don't think I've done this one yet. I might have to do that. I might have to shoot that later today or tomorrow. Probably not later today because it's going to be time for bed. But maybe tomorrow. We'll see. But anyway, so like the Blue Fairy book was first, then Red. And then he says in the introduction, this is probably going to be the last one. Y'all, there's like a dozen. And so he goes down the line. But once we get further down, the stories tend to be like variations on ones that are, already in some of the other fairy books. And sometimes very similar within the same fairy book. So like some of the, like Purple is the best color, y'all. But the purple fairy book and the violet fairy book, they're not as good. Pink fairy book's one of the ones that I was just like, why would somebody recommend that one? You don't start with the pink fairy book. Start with the green one or the brown one. Green one is like my favorite, mostly because of the editor's message in the front. And I mean, it's got some of my favorite stories. And the brown one's also really good. Why would you recommend the pink one? Sarah Scott, no, I'm not doing a PhD. Although I probably will be doing a video about my thoughts on that. Let's just leave it at that. There's somebody that I would love to study with, but I just don't think it's going to be possible. It is what it is. And that makes me sad, but we can't do all the things. Anyway, so yeah, lots of thoughts. Immediately, I'm just like, just immediate connection to the text. For the other, it was the one book she ever stole from her elementary school library, a book on mythology. Not that it was okay to steal the book, but she will finally admit to it now, more than 30 years later, with the school shut down for good and said thief living on the other side of the world from her hometown. It's like, now I can admit to it. They go on. We never found similar compilations on mythology and collections of folklore that were distinctly Asian. So many times when we found Asian stories, they were retold by non-Asian writers that never felt quite right. They were always missing something. The stories felt superficial at best, and at worst, quite hurtful. We long for nuance and subtlety and layers, the embedded truths about culture that more often than not can only come from within. So, and the story's been really good. Some of them have modern settings. So I think I've read 3 or 4 so far. They've been really good. One of the reasons I was interested in it was I recognized several of the authors, but more of them I didn't. And I'm just like, yay, short stories are a great way to sort of put a toe in the water and test it for new authors, to see story development without committing to reading an entire novel where it takes longer for things to develop. So, oh man, I'll chit-chat in here. I'm going to peek over in the chat. Oh, Sarah, I'm so glad it's been an interesting day, and I'm so glad you're connecting with stuff that you learned before. Yay! Oh, yeah, and Homebody, Interlibrary Loan. Love it. And now that I have a library card from my local library, and I've also got a library card from Chattanooga, I can do 2 states worth of interlibrary loans. I can have all the books, you guys. Oh, so stoked. Oh my goodness. Sarah, here's the thing. I don't know a lot of Simpsons references. So I'm not sure what Homer Simpson reference you're referring to. So maybe you can teach me something in the chat. And Matthew, I think your interlibrary loan might work the way Tennessee's does, because it sounds like the Chattanooga library will, like, if they don't have access to a book, they'll look at any library to see if they can get it. But it sounds like you'll have to pay for postage, whereas through the Georgia interlibrary loan system, you don't pay anything. You just say, but they may not have access to the books. If it's not actually in one of their partner libraries, you don't have it. So it's interesting that it's a different system. And also, there are some important libraries, like Atlanta, that aren't part of the Georgia interlibrary loan system. So I'm kind of pouty about that. I don't know. Maybe I should call the Atlanta Public Library and be like, look, guys, I'm up here in rural Northwest Georgia, and we just don't have everything that I want to read. Although, in fairness, we've got more than enough to keep me busy. Okay, so there's this one. And then, also, Happily Ever Afters, which is a YA romance, happy and fluffy, and just nice. It's also about a 16-year-old girl who wants to write romance novels. So there's a lot of sort of tropiness and, textual awareness and things like that. And it sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun. Sarah, I'm right there with you. I was actually not allowed to watch The Simpsons when I was a child, and it first came out because, because Bart's rudeness is framed by the narrative not just as age appropriate, like in Turning Red, the new Pixar movie. It's interesting. It's an interesting contrast because I think the movie does a really good job of framing the protagonist's rebellion as age appropriate, but still not just like, oh, it's perfectly okay that she's lying to her family. So it's really interesting. Whereas Bart's is more like, haha, boys will be boys type stuff, especially in sort of parallel or perpendicular, I guess, to Lisa and how things develop with her. Anyway, so those two stories are from my local public library. And then I don't think I currently have anything out from Chattanooga. And then, however, I also have another library, which is my school library. And the next show I will have will be at the end of our spring break week. Yay! And so I will have one of the things I'm doing over spring break, hopefully, is, as long as that doesn't get canceled, not spring break, the thing that I'm planning to do is go to a literature class from a professor that I know online because we're both teachers and he has a blog. And he used to teach up in Maryland, but now he teaches over here at Sewanee. And I said, I would love to go to one of your classes because he said that they'd talked him into doing a literature class. I'm like, really? Is it during the summer? And he's like, no, but spring. I'm like, when is your spring break? Spring break's a different time. So I'm going to go to one of his classes. They're going to be discussing the Song of Solomon, though. Not the book of the Bible, the novel by Toni Morrison, which I have not read. So I got that from my school library. Yes. So I'm going to have to, fortunately, they'll only be on discussing chapters 3 through 5, so I can do that. But I also have this one, which is just, it's a graphic novel. Y'all, this book, oh, it's so precious. And it's wonderful. The art is just simple and evocative. And then, oh yeah, I wasn't allowed to have those either, C-Mac. So yeah. Who the F are you? I'm just like, it's so, and that's her name. Like, that's the author's name. Which way am I going? Can I see it? There we go. It's so great. Wow, Matthew, you're really old. Anyway, and then also I love the dedication. So, dedicated to my mom, who wants everyone to know she hated the title. And then she also, I think, dedicates it to her husband. But I don't know. I'm not very good at this. So the picture there where she says, what have I done? Or thinks, I guess it's a thought bubble. And it's just all the way through. It's very self-aware and it's funny and sweet and just, I love it so much. So I'm so thankful and so blessed and just delighted and so happy that I have so much library access. Libraries are like the best, you guys. Please, 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 please patronize your local libraries. Check out more books than you can possibly read. And then don't be okay with not reading them, just return them. It increases their circulation numbers. Page through them. Check out like 10 books and then maybe read one. You know, that gives you 10 books to choose from right there instead of having to go back and forth, because maybe it's a little bit of a drive. That's okay. Oh my goodness. Libraries, y'all. Wonderful. And Interlibrary Loan is just such a great resource. It's so awesome. Now, like, I can log in to the Interlibrary Loan system and say, do you have this book? And they're like, well, we don't have this book. If they have this book. And I can say, yes, but I want it. And so the book will come to my library. They will set it aside for me. They will send me a message that says your book is ready. And then I go in there, I say, hi guys. They're like, here you go. We have a book for you. It's just like right there. You don't even have to go over to the stacks to look for it, which is good. Because if I go over to the stacks and start looking for books, I end up, hurting my shoulder on the way out because I get so many of them. So it's really nice. Oh, and I'll just go ahead. So today, I was walking and this little old man was walking into the library ahead of me. And I'm like, he's walking slow. That's okay. I can be patient. I was patient. So he goes up and he pushes the little button and the door swings open. And he went in, but there was a second door. I think I went into the second door because the second set of doors does not have a button. So I held the door for him on his way in. And he went over and he stood in front of the window where I was going to get my book. Okay. And then he starts talking to the librarian about e pluribus unum. And I'm like, so I'm not entirely sure. I think he wanted to know what it meant. And he's like, it's on all the money. I'm like, are you trying to find it? And the librarian, he's like, it's on all the coins. Do you have any coins? And the librarian's like, no, do you have one that you can show me what you're talking about? And so he goes through his pockets and he's got his wallet out and he's going through and gets some coins out and he's looking at this little dime. And I'm like, okay, so it's on all the money. It's not the one that's around the circle, but it's right here. He says, yes, I know that. And I'm like, sorry, dude. I don't know what you're talking about. That was not, he wanted to know what it meant. So the librarian gave me a piece of paper and I wrote it out and I said, it means from many, one. And what it means is that, we are many people, but together we are one people. We come together as a group. And that's sort of the vision of the United States, that these states are not individual nations, but they come together. So, hey, Andrew, he's like, well, I looked for it in the dictionary. I couldn't find it. I'm like, well, that's because it's Latin. It's not English. And he says, you must be a librarian. I said, I'm not, but I am a teacher. And so, we talked about that as I got my books and we ended up, that was apparently the only thing he wanted. And I got my books like that. And they didn't even ask for my library card because my barcode is on the checkout slip because to say this is who it's for. And they're just like, okay, here you go. You don't need your receipt, do you? I'm like, nope, I'm good. So they save on paper. Everybody's happy. I have my books. Hold the doors for the nice guy on the way out, and we talk a little bit. And he's like, well, you're not going to quit, are you? Like something like 49% of teachers quit. And I'm like, well, some of them might be going to a different school. And maybe some of them, they have to move and go somewhere else. Maybe they're family. Or maybe they choose that they're going to be librarians. It's like, I guess so. Just like, and I'm also thinking, I'm like, also, it's just really hard to be a teacher. So let's be honest. So that was a nice little interaction. I got to teach somebody something and it wasn't even in class and they wanted to learn something. It's pretty cool. So last, but certainly not least, I don't know. This has been like all over social media. And sometimes the past few years have been really hard. And you might just need a pep talk. And so some teachers in California were charmed by their students' optimism, given yeah, Steve, maybe you should reread Lord of the Rings. So the teachers were charmed by their students' optimism and positivity, and in the midst of the pandemic and out in California, the wildfires and things that are going on in life, making things challenging. And these little kids are still playing with each other and having fun and being kids. And some of the ways that they sort of encourage each other, and they're like, we need to make this available to more people. So they created a recording of kids saying, encouraging, uplifting things. And it's now on an 800 number that you can call in and listen to kids say encouraging, adorable things. And so I will post that number. But yeah, it's been all over, and they, make sure that you hug a kitten. Things like that. Like, of course, hugging a kitten makes things feel better. It doesn't solve things, but it makes you feel better. And that matters. So, I will post that. And if you get a chance to call in, I would love to know which particular thought from the Munchkins is your favorite. That would be awesome. Also, if you get a chance, down in the stream already, I've got the Brain No Brainy. Sarah, help me out. The page, charitylinks.page. There you go. Where you have an opportunity where you too can help people out. Or if you wanted to leave me a comment, once I've got the link for Cycling Without Age posted, leave me a comment. What is the closest chapter to you? Do they have bikes yet or not? Could you go for a bike ride with somebody who maybe hasn't gotten out in a while? Or could you help them raise funds to get their first trishaw? So, Andrew, you haven't been paying attention much. Steve does not like high fantasy. I think he's okay with we watch Hilda, right? For Trek Reluctantly every other week. And that's fantasy. And that's modern fantasy. But it's definitely, it doesn't have the sort of, high fantasy. I don't know. If I had if I had minimal stress and all the time in the world, I'm pretty confident that I could write a fantasy, or at least that I could find a fantasy story that Steve would appreciate. And you liked valedictorian, didn't you, Steve? And that's modern fantasy. It's not set in medieval times, but it's also kind of speculative as well. So, well, Andrew, both of those are considered speculative fiction. It says, what if, imagining the world as different than it is and using that as a way to explore and critique the way the world is. So that's the way I like to think of it. Steve. Yeah, it's absolutely fantasy, Andrew. Although, and witches. Let's not forget. It's also got witches. And Steve, there is humor. Terry Pratchett, high fantasy, definitely high fantasy, and absolutely humor. Piers Anthony, definitely some problematic elements, but high fantasy and absolutely has a sense of humor. So it's not, high fantasy does not rule out humor. It's just that you're not aware of it because you're prejudiced, Steve. You're prejudiced. All right, so Star Trek does what? Hilda has no elves. Wait, no. Hilda has elves. Hilda has elves. They're just this big. All right. Homebody. Uh-oh. Don't say that in front of Steve. The more I reread it, the less I like it, actually. Ooh, interesting. What does that show about how things have changed for you? Sarah, I don't think so. I think he definitely had some inspiration from Germanic tales as well as things like the Mabinogion. So he essentially, what I understand is Tolkien wanted to create a specifically British structural mythology, so it's sort of like who we are. And so what he wrote was very much in response to the Great War. And he pulled from some of the French, Germanic, and Welsh tropes and mythology and some of their mythological references. Steve? I think some of it is... I don't think that's true. Resistant, or better yet, Steve is reluctant to change. So, Homebody, that's really... Homebody, have you read anything by Patrick Rothfuss? Now, I wonder if he's done any short stories, because, man, Name of the Wind is really, really enjoyable. but it's a commitment. It's a commitment, but it's really enjoyable. Steve has to read fantasy if I say so. What are you gonna do, Sarah? Smite me? Yes. So yeah, Tolkien absolutely did. He pulled, but I don't know that it's necessarily fair to say that he stole when, he was drawing from cultures deliberately and with attribution. Like, it's not that he was pretending that he just made everything up himself. It very much like in A Thousand Beginnings and Endings. They don't, they're retellings of these stories, but that doesn't mean they stole them, because they're like, hey, I'm pulling from something that is, important and meaningful. And I'm also telling you about, this is my introduction. This is my way of introducing that story to you, dear reader, who may not know it. Good luck with that, Sarah. This is my channel. You can block me on Steve's channel. You can't block me here. Ha ha ha. Man, Philip, I'm gonna have to go soon and finish up the stream, because I glanced at that and it said Epic the Nevada, and then I'm like, that is not the Nevada. What have I haven't read any horror in a while. When I was little, there was I think it was a doll horror book. I think it was by John Saul. It was really creepy. I liked that one. Sorry, Andrew. Sarah's gonna block you because she's mad at me. IDK. Anyway. All right. So, hopefully these books I can move through pretty quickly so that I can get to a more in-depth reading of Song of Solomon, which I'll have hopefully more time for when spring break starts. We got 2 weeks. So, wait. Today is the 19th, so it'll be 19th. Yeah, 19th through the 19th, 20th. So the 21st, no, yeah. So it'll be the weekend. So I won't be talking about this next time. So the 21st through the 25th, and then 26th, 28th through the 1st. So the next one will be April 2nd, which will be before I go to that literature class. Will be before spring break. So I actually won't be talking about that class next time. I'll figure something else out. Oh, so I'm protected. I'm safe. Yes, but Andrew, maybe you should have done something. Did you think about that? Yeah, but you'll win, because I'm slow with modding. Everybody else is like, watch. I'm just like talking to people. I'm responding to comments. That's my thing. The whole moderating thing, I suck at that. Responding to comments, that's where I gotcha. Bring mud and bikinis. I'll bring the popcorn, okay? Y'all can wear the bikinis. And I think on that note, I'm going to end the stream. Thank you all so much for spending some time with me. I hope that this helped to make your weekend a little bit enjoyable, fun, encouraging. IDK. Anyway, share some of your favorite moments from the last 2 weeks in the chat, one of those things, in the comments. And then also maybe listen to the pep talk and check out Cycling Without Age once I get those links up there in the description. And then in the comments, let me know where the nearest chapter of Cycling Without Age is and if you can go, and what your favorite comments are from the Munchkins. That'd be great. Anyway, have a wonderful rest of your day, however long that ends up being, and a wonderful next 2 weeks. And I will talk to you again soon. Bye, everybody. Love you.